Good morning. This video comes on a request to kind of compare and break down TXC and XRP. XRP is a very popular token that's been established for most of the cryptocurrency life. Has a huge following, big project outlook on that one. TXC is a very young project, kind of the new kid on the block. So a lot of people that are in XRP and are hearing about TXC are trying to ask for comparison, and you might come across these guys who are XRP holders that are asking for the comparison of like, why should I invest in TXC versus XRP? And it doesn't have to necessarily be a verse of this or that, because they are very different. And it's going to be very hard to compare and sell somebody who's a huge XRP lover that you have to be in TXC. Because of that infancy versus the established life term of them, they are very different. So that is an important key term. I did use ChatGPT to kind of help me with this. I've used a ton of commands before this. I've talking about TXC a bunch to my ChatGPT. So it's got a lot more details than the basic ask for somebody. So if you asked this, you probably would get a different answer than what I got. Also XRP, Bitcoin, Litecoin. I've gone through all of them and done the deep dive. So my ChatGPT is a lot more familiar with crypto. But I'm just using this kind of as a guideline to go through the talk. I'm gonna use my own spin or my own verbiage to kind of explain, to maybe help with the comparison or when you're talking to somebody. So this is the basic early, just kind of a breakdown. What is each project? What is a token? TXC is a layer one built with a script for proof of work, meaning it's a mining coin. It's focused in Texas. The mining is permissioned only, so only TXC decides who and where it can be mined. The technical specs, you get 254 TXC coins per block mined. Each block time should take 3 minutes. So if every single block was fully mined at exactly 3 minutes and there was zero lag time in between, that would generate 121,900 and something coin mined per day. There's always a lag or a draw. And then through some redundancies, there's a utility variance. Currently right now TXC is averaging about 95,000 coins is kind of the production rate. They are building more mines pretty rapidly right now. And the more mines and the more powerful systems should create a better redundancy to get that daily average over 100,000 and into over 100,000 and closer to that 120,000. Sorry for that little distraction. The no pre-mine means that TXC started with 0 coins on day one, and then was building from that. Sorry, I have to answer this real quick before this guy calls me. There is a halving schedule. This is very common with the mined coins. The halving cycle is based on how many blocks it's within the code. So it becomes a deflationary step to maintain that scarcity, to maintain the value, and keep the supply fixated to where at the very end, in about roughly 138 years, the maximum supply will totally be mined, and you'll see 353,396,296 TXC in existence. The use case, TXC is being designed as a merchant crypto coin, designed around purchasing and transactions between businesses, specifically in Texas. So kind of a way that I've told people about it is, you're investing in the Texas economy. You're trying to see that these guys, if they were to go to this as an accepted currency within Texas, the more businesses between businesses and people and Texans, using TXC to shop at Texas-specific businesses creates that action. The wrapped version of a coin is linking it to Ethereum, which allows staking, lending, and adds liquidity to the supply, to go cross-network. Not all coins have a wrapped version, but maintaining that wrapped version allows for cross use on other platforms or other projects like Ethereum and such. And then staking is a good way to add profit to your portfolio. So some risks and some controversies about TXC that people are going to talk about. There's community criticism post with the pyramid and the referral style. Some people don't like this style, especially when it's pushed hard or sold hard. But if you really think about it, everything uses a referral bonus program. TXC is not going out and getting any kind of influencer or famous person to try to persuade you to buy without any knowledge or anything. What they're doing is, hey, if you like it, tell somebody about it, and we're going to reward you for telling them about it. Your bank, your Robinhood, your Coinbase, any kind of exchange, hey, send this referral link to somebody and we're going to give you 100 coins or whatever. That's very common, and it's in everything. But the pyramid and the MLM kind of style, these all fail because they force you to continue to put in, and you have to sign up more people, otherwise you don't get nothing. But with TXC, it's not. You can sign up by yourself. You don't need somebody to sign you up. You can sign up on your own, and you don't have to do anything else after that. You can be done, and you start earning right away. You don't have to sell. So the regional niche, though, is could be a risk or a controversy for some. People are looking at it. XRP is an international scale, and TXC is very focused on Texas. So Texas has to be successful for TXC to be successful. That could be a concern to some, but also that smaller niche, means that it could be very successful with Texas being successful. So being that it's new, though, there is high risk, it being in the speculative stage, being that it's less than 2 years old. It is going to be a lot more speculative than a coin that like XRP that's been around for 10 plus years or even longer. I don't remember exactly when they started. But so jump into XRP or Ripple. XRP is a native token on a ledger. It's mature and decentralized, although this is, I would argue that it is not. Partially permission ledger. So it is not a proof of work and not a proof of stake. So there's no mining, there's no staking, there's no lending, there's none of that. It's just they're all there. What it was written to do was to create very fast transactions. So where TXC was designed to be a merchant-to-merchant kind of or peer-to-merchant exchange and transactional period, think of XRP as like a transfer. If the international bank in Europe wanted to transfer to money in international bank in America, they could use XRP to transfer it. Very low fees because of their no mining, no proof of work, no proof of stake. So the fees are very, very low. It's how it's designed. Energy efficient because there's no mining. Where like the proof of work mining coins, the mines do take a lot of energy. So if somebody is looking at the energy consumption and they're trying to save the world, the mines are going to put heavy pressure on utility grids. So kind of the design and where they're very different is TXC came out and said at the end of it, we're going to have 353 million coins. We're going to mine them, and we're going to get roughly between 95,000 and 120,000 a day, and then there'll be a halving cycle, and that'll continue on for 130 years. It's going to we're not going to see the end of the mine of it. XRP came out and said, boom, 100 billion coins are out in existence. How they started was 80 billion of them were owned within in that not decentralized group of Ripple, and then 20 billion was to the early founders and the early investors. And then those guys sold them out to the public market. That 20 billion became available and the 80 billion was locked up. And then whenever Ripple decides, they take from their 80 billion and they put some out into the market for everybody else. And depending on the price, they'll either buy it back and take it back into their escrow, or they'll put it back into the market and kind of go back and forth, so they can kind of walk the price back and forth, which is part of where their legal scrutiny and stuff has came in. To be deflationary, instead of the controlled mine daily, they have a tiny portion of it is burned with each transaction in that fee. But because they're advertising that they are such a tiny fee, that is such a tiny amount that you might not even notice it. But their purpose, again, was those cross-border payments. They want to be, if you need to transfer money across, which is ODL, on-demand liquidity, to allow you to move large amounts of money across accounts. Micropayments with the low fees, being so low fees, even you don't have to say, oh, I'm sending $100 billion. You could even do it for $1. You can do tiny amounts and still have a small fee to where it's not like, oh, I gave up 30 cents out of my $1 to transfer it. XRP has faced some SEC ruling. The primary function is transactional utility, which is not a store of value. So because they're not labeling themselves correctly, the SEC is kind of on them. They have a couple other things going on, but they have got the major ones kind of decided. The SEC's off their back. It's not like going to get shut down, but they kind of are having some issues with their identity. Proof of work mining in Texas. This is a federated consensus with a validator base, which means that Ripple controls the supply and everything about it. 353 versus 100 billion. Distribution, these are mining, no pre-mined. All pre-mined completely at launch. Large allocation is to Ripple and the founders. Rest is in escrow, released when they decide, which is centralized. The primary use, this focused on trade, commerce, local economies, sovereignty in Texas, real-world adoption, that merchant, business transactions and buying and using it as like an actual type of currency. XRP is built for transferring money across borders, micropayments, and all, peer-to-peer or business-to-business can all use XRP, but it's mostly just transferring money back and forth. Having the wrapped TXC enables that DeFi usage, the staking and giving liquidity for borrowing, for other exchanges to use them. So even though it's on the TXC network, it can be used on the Ethereum network for Ethereum projects and stuff. So that's kind of cool about that. This is a native token, which support new features like hooks, which are programmable for the sidechains. So it's kind of like its own version, but it's not as easily to cross over into other exchanges. So 3-minute block is the mining. So that's kind of the pace of the network. The 3 to 5 seconds for transactions, because they're all in existence. They don't have to be moved through the network as hard as this network is being used to mine and transact. So there could be some longer delays. Niche, lower liquidity, well established, some centralization risks, since they recognize it now that they're centralized more than they are decentralized. Which is better argument is going to be based on your ideology, what you prefer, what you like. Because they're so different, you can't really say which is better. Again, TXC is a merchant base. XRP is, on-demand liquidity based, money transfers and preferences, different uses. The mining versus already existing, the transaction fees, all that stuff can kind of go back and forth, and they're different. They're very, very different. The pyramid style will always kind of come up. Are these mining shares monies being allocated to the project properly? If you're following the project, you can see the mines are being built. And once the mines are built, there's already the talk of the downtown digital dollar. There's already talks of the layer 2 or phase 2 and phase 3 of the project. Like all that's already kind of started, even though they haven't finished phase 1. So there is the growth and there is more coming, which makes this argument very weak and moot. Very established, but they still get criticized because of the affiliated parties, because they control so much, and it is much more centralized and decentralized like they claim. But it is very fast, very energy efficient. It's just less decentralized than what could be. That is true decentralized. So for long-term infrastructure and payments, you're going to want to use XRP. This has the edge. Its real-world adoption and efficient ledger is much more likely to be used because it already kind of is. If you're looking for a better investment, a better possibility, the high growth, TXC is very driven in this for Texas and for Texans kind of mentality. Local money, community based, very focused, like that adoption and the community around it is very big. Both of these have very, very strong communities. But because TXC is newer, it's in that speculative side. Anybody that you're bringing on is going to have to know that TXC is more risky than if they're already in XRP, being how established it is. So if you just want to kind of look at the investment side of it, let's look at some 5-year realistic returns on your investment based on the historics, based on the realistic adoption curves that are possible, based on the network growth that these could see. No extreme moonshots, nothing outlandish, just kind of real basic. Or we could get more hybrid, more speculative, very aggressive, very speculative. And if we're going to do that, why not look at all three? See the conservative side, see the middle, and see the very, very speculative side. So it asked me to put in some points for it, my view on them, and what is really a possibility, the risk level that we're going to take. Once I have these inputs, we're going to come up with those models for you. So I kind of just did a TXC at 340, XRP at 240, even though XRP is significantly down from that and TXC is actually up from that. We're going to say, yes, Texas fully adopts, and then there's modest adoption for XRP in the banks. A lot of banks are going to use them, maybe not every single bank. And let's do the higher volatility because we are, crypto is in a volatile space. Crypto is in a volatile time. So it took those 5-year projection on the conservative model. We are looking for, 340 next year, 380 to 420. Obviously, we're going to look at the path to 16 and know that these numbers are very low. But this would just be at adoption, very consistent growth. And you're looking at ChatGPT seeing 80 to 150% growth at a very conservative pace. XRP's growth at a very conservative pace 240 to 5 is only 67 to 108. XRP is slower and steadier because it's already established. It's already out there. It has a huge, huge supply. So it's very kind of diluted compared to TXC. Small market driven and the scarcity creating more value. It has got more upside as far as an investment. Even if you go into more of the hybrid versions, you're going to see greater growth. I went too fast. For TXC, this is a little bit bigger. Adoption, the wrapped in DeFi demand grows. 250 to 425. This is a 340, $5, $6, all up to $18. And then XRP, 240 to 950 for their bigger. 200 to 295. Winner again is TXC has more upside as far as an investment point, but that's mostly because of the speculation. So even if we go into the most speculative, most aggressive, highest end, a worst case scenario that you could see is TXC going all the way down to 80 cents. But you could see it also go to $60. So we see a negative 65 to 1,700% upside. Massive upside and massive downside potential. XRP, 60% to 940, 90 cent to 100 to $1.40, $20 to $25. XRP has solid speculative upside, but can't 10 to 20x as easily as TXC because of its size, no scarcity value, and it's already established. So if you look at the conservative, you look at the hybrid, this is the much more realistic kind of idea. the more speculative and very, high end side. Worst case scenario for TXC is, you're going to lose 65%, lose 60%. So those are about the same. Worst case scenario, if crypto goes away kind of thing on both, or both take a dive. The best case scenario, though, is you have huge upside with TXC, and you have solid, but not as good. So as an investment, TXC is kind of your bigger possibility, bigger growth. And I did go into some other ones. I don't want to make this video too crazy long. Wanted this to be kind of short and to the point, and break down TXC and XRP, because while they both are very similar and they have very strong communities, they're very different. They are mined different. They are created different. Their uses are different. Their goals are different. But they're crypto and the same. So, you're going to see a lot of people who have XRP, who will have TXC, and very much you could have both. There's no reason to have one and not the other. One of the best things about investing is to keep diversified. So if you're looking at diversification, you could easily buy only ones like XRP, and then if that program doesn't work, then you're going to lose. And you could only buy TXC, and you could only buy proof of work and mining coins, and then if that adoption fails, then you kind of lose. So realistically, TXC and XRP are good ones to kind of invest in, coincide with each other, because they are so different. So for somebody who's in one or the other, that you needed to talk to them to kind of show similarities and differences, or risks and rewards, potential, like there's no reason to do one versus the other when they are so different. But definitely a good talking point, because there are a lot of XRP investors, and they have a very strong backing, and they have a very strong project. The likelihood that banks and countries need that on-demand liquidity to be able to transfer very easy is a real-world solution, a real-world problem being solved by XRP. TXC is a very fun, project that's around a very strong economy of Texas itself. You have a lot of businesses moving from California and New York to Texas. Texas has a lot of potential to become a strong point. And if you know Texas, though, the people in that area are very much a for Texas, by Texas kind of mentality crowd that would love to have a specific currency around them, that they can go business to business and shop at Texas businesses specifically and spend money and help each other grow their wealth. So, it's the right niche. Even though it is niche, it's the right niche kind of thing in my eyes. So, two good programs to consider. No need to bash one versus the other, because both have possibilities of working very well. As you can see, they both have really good best case scenarios. So best case scenario for everybody, we all win. Hope this helps, and have a good one.